Moving around some mobile parts. Here's your look at the new Bandai Gundam Infinity series. Build your own Gundam figures. Before we start grabbing Gundam parts, I'd like to first thank the folks over at Bandai that were kind enough to send over a couple of their samples of the brand new Gundam Infinity series, a line of Gundam figures in which you can actually take apart the parts and mix them around until you get a new customized Gundam for your collection. Again, they were nice enough to send over 3. They sent over the Barbatus, the Unicorn Gundam, and the Burning Gundam on the end. And of course, before we get down to looking at each of the details on all of them, and before we start customizing our Gundam, let's also grab the tape measure, just in case you guys are curious as to how tall these new collectible line is. Starting only first with Barbatus, we're going to take it right to the very top. And I don't know if you consider the crest as part of the highest part of the figure. Maybe we'll do that. Barbatus stands 4 inches in height, or it's about 10 centimeters tall. Unicorn is the tallest of the 3, and counting really the backpack also, that takes us a figure that's almost closer to being about 5 inches in height, or I would say maybe about 11.5 centimeters tall. As you would imagine, Bandai has stocked each one of the figures with their own dedicated accessories, or again, they're accessories that you can mix and match once we start pulling off the parts. Interesting thing about Barbatus, or is it Barbatos? Barbatus also was unique to the figures that they sent over because it's part of its own unique 5-figure set. That's part of the Zaku wave. Zaku wave, essentially, with each one of the 5 figures, you get a part to build the Gundam Zaku. Now, in the case only of Barbatos, or is it Barbatos, the parts that were only included to build the Zaku was like a rifle and an axe. Once we have, of course, built the other, or grabbed the other 4, it would come included with limbs, torso, and a head for Zaku, and then you could, of course, build Zaku from that. But all we really have to work with from what Bandai was providing here was only the accessories or parts for Zaku that came included with only Barbatos. All the other 2 figures were just part of the regular Gundam Infinity series. So I guess we could put those to the side, or technically you could as well use Zaku's axe as well as the rifle, and, of course, display it with any one of the Gundams. We're going to put those to the side, at least for right now, because they're not really specific to these Gundams themselves. We're going to look at the accessories. First of all, that came included with Barbatos. He comes included with this big, giant mace. The mace and all of the accessories, actually, are made of very soft, pliable plastic. I guess they do that for the safety of course, making these widely produced and circulated. If these are things that kids are going to be picking up, of course, they're going to want to probably make the material a little bit more softer. And that seems to be the case here with the mace. I'm assuming it to be a mace. If it's certainly not, please let me know down below in the comment section. Each one of the weapons, of course, can house inside the hand of the Gundam. So we're going to go ahead and slide that right now into Barbatos's hand. Banging the other Gundams in the process. We're going to just move around Unicorn. The figure also comes included with a beam saber. Now, I have to say, unfortunately, the beam saber is quite crooked. Again, being that they used a softer plastic, it kind of looks like chewing gum, really. I would have to probably heat this up in hot water, I think, just to probably make the beam saber a little bit more straight. There doesn't seem at least a place that I can find on Barbatos that actually houses any one of the accessories that we're looking at. So really, the only options available here are to, of course, slide it into the Gundam's hands. And again, you can use these for other, all the hands are universal between the figures that we're going to be looking at. The figure also comes included with a normal saber. Again, molded like the mace and more of a softer gray plastic. And again, I really don't have a spot now to fit this onto the hands. Interesting thing also about these Gundams is going to go ahead and slide these accessories off for the time being. Again, we're going to pop this off for the time being. Each one of the forearms, at least, well, this one and the Unicorn have also holes on their forearms. Unicorn, for example, does come included with a shield. And the shield, if you did want to start swapping things around, does technically clip onto the forearm if you wanted to use it, for example, with Barbatus. A little option there available as well. Putting that back, as we're going to get back to Unicorn's accessories in a second, getting a closer look at Barbatus. I got to say, it's a really interesting looking Gundam. For a second, it looks sort of more cat-like in the face. I like the way they've painted the eyes, kind of a more of an off emerald green, and a big giant yellow crest across the top of the helmet, which again is using a softer plastic. One thing my takeaway for all this figure line that we've looked at, or we are going to be looking at here, is the material that they've used for the plastic. I could probably best describe as sort of a kind of more of a gummier, softer plastic. And again, they probably did that because this is going to be geared, again, not only to collectors, but also to kids. The plastic is certainly a lot more forgiving, especially if you're going to start yanking, say, arms off. Everything really sort of is sitting against ball joints. So if you start yanking things off and it's using a harder, denser plastic, there's more of the risk that any one of those joints can break off. That's probably one of the reasons why they use the more gummier plastic. Nice detailing, though, done overall on Barbatus. Or again, is it Barbatos? Please let me know down below in the comments section. One thing I do want to mention, though, is the Burning Gundam seems to be the only one I think that has a removable backpack. The backpack is quite firmly attached here to the back of Barbatus. I really wouldn't advise yanking this off. It looks like it's permanently attached. But again, you got some really nice detailing done on the lower legs, some additional red accents added into the shoulders, and just an overall nice little color scheme. All of the figures seem to have similar articulation, so we're going to go start things off with Barbatus. The head is what seems to be on a ball joint, although really the ball joint, I can only just move the head down more than I can up. When I move it up, that's as far up as I can actually get it. Again, the head rotates back and forth. You can take the waist and also rotates back and forth, and now it sits on a ball peg. But I mean, obviously, for the nature of the way it's sitting so close to the waist, this is as much as you're really going to be able to get from it. Shoulders are a little bit more manageable when it comes to the articulation. You can bring the arms out this way. You can rotate them again all the way around. There is a slight swivel, it seems, by the way it's attached. It's more so like the shoulder hinges on its own, and then it sort of sits and clips onto the top of the shoulder of the arm. Speaking of the arm, there's also an elbow bend. There's a hand swivel there also as well, and quite a generous amount of articulation when it comes to the legs, even though he's got these side skirting here that sort of gets in the way of things. If not for that, you probably could do a good solid splits with Barbatus. Legs go forward and back quite easily as well. There's a nice single hinge on the knee, and some decent articulation also in the feet. They are also pegged in place. And being, again, that they plug in by ball joint, again, you can just remove those, and likely you probably would be able to just swap them out with the other parts made up from the other Gundams we're about to have a look at. So that's Barbatus. Moving on then to Unicorn. I think I actually like the Unicorn the most. It's a little bulkier there on the torso, the upper frame of it. And of course the arms are quite a lot closer, it seems, to the torso. So when rotating the arms, first of all, I noticed when getting these all out of the packaging that I did have to do a little bit of assembly. When you are putting them first onto the ball joints, you're really going to have to put a lot of pressure against them to finally pop them in place. I sort of was disappointed by the fact that there was no satisfying as it popped the arms in. But anyways, I really like the color scheme, and I like the bulkier nature here of Unicorn. Very broad again. These bladed crest that sticks out the top of the head. And again, you've got some really interesting color happening here. Primarily all white, done away with the purple that was more predominant on the Barbatus. And then again, you've got the backpack. Now again, like the backpack doesn't seem like something that you want to be taking off. It only seems like the Burning Gundam is the thing that you can remove. So really, if you are looking to customize this and start yanking things off, I would not certainly recommend start yanking off the backpack. If anything, just take the top torso off, take the arms off, well, we'll do that more in a second. This one also kind of reminds me of Skyfire or Jetfire from Transformers. It's also got more of a samurai look to it. I love the way they've done the lower skirting. There's really not a lot of paint really happening here. Primarily, it's just all the molded white plastic, which actually really, to its credit, is nicely detailed. Very nice sculpt on all of these. And you've only got a few little mild red accents added there. And skirting, the top of the torso, the shoulders, the arms, and lower on the knees there as well. And I also really like the boots on this one, too. The feet are big and clunky. By the way, in case you are curious, there is what seems no peg hole on the underside. There's like slots, but there's no display stands with any one of these figures. Again, the articulation on Unicorn, the head is going to be a little bit more limited just because it's encased inside the top of the torso. You can rotate it back and forth. You can hinge it down. You can hinge it up. Shoulders work the same way, although you're going to be a little more limited with what you can do with here Unicorn's shoulders, just because the shoulder pads sit so close to the frame. Elbow bend, hand swivels, waist swivels, leg split, Again, all the same with all of these figures. Single hinge and the articulation down below in the feet. Accessories, which we didn't talk yet just about, I mean, comes included with this really interesting blaster. Love the sculpting of this. There's no paint, unfortunately, on this. It just relies only on the gunmetal plastic molding. But it's a really interesting looking blaster. Fit that into his hand. And as we've already looked at, the figure also comes included with a shield. The shield is just by a plug, and that plug can not only attach to the forearm here of Unicorn, but it also can, as we've already looked at, plug onto the arm of Barbatus. And there is Unicorn. Just going to move everything over just a little bit. The last figure we're going to have a look at is the Burning Gundam. And certainly one thing to be credited for this Gundam is the fact that some really nice use of bright colors, primarily all primary colors, really. You've got the primary yellow, blue, and red. Mixed in there, of course, is the primary base color of the white. Nice skirting there on the back. Of course, you notice a peg hole in the back of this one, because this figure actually comes included with a jet pack or wing pack. The neat thing about the wings, just going to put the figure down here for a second, is that there's actually hinges. So you can move and spread these wings out if you want. Or if you'd rather have them closer together, you can also do that as well. You can also bring them up too. Kind of makes it look more like wings. And this actually works with a clip. Now the clip, from what I've seen so far, isn't compatible with the other first two figures that we've looked at. It only works with Burning Gundam. Snaps just onto the back like that. And again, it just adds a nice little additional detailing to the figure. Something else also that this figure comes included with too is an orange hand. Now the orange hand works on a ball peg. So really you could, again, use it with either one of the two figures we've already had a look at. The hand simply just detaches from the forearm. Just wiggle the existing gray hand off and then replace it, making sure, of course, you got the right side going. You replace it on that side, and now Burning Gundam's got the burning hand. The other accessory that the figure comes included with involves me putting it down just for a second. It comes also with a secondary version of the cockpit cover. Now, what it is if you look at the front of the torso here, this section right here can detach. It sort of just involves you taking your finger and kind of getting up to the top and prying it away from the torso. And inside, you can actually see the opening of the cockpit. Now, this is the alternate to that. See, there's this little lip of plastic. There's a little open slot right there. You can actually take that alternate cockpit and have it in such a way that it looks like it's opened up the front of its canopy, like a little canopy opening there. I think that's kind of cool. It does, unfortunately, though, block the face. So for the purpose of this, while I do appreciate the fact that they included it, going to be more inclined, I think, just to display it with the cockpit down. But it's just nice to know that they put a detail like that in there. And then, of course, for the closer look at Burning Gundam, really like the head sculpt on this one quite a lot. Again, for such a small figure, considering for the size of this, that the fact that they'd be able to put these little tiny notches of black in there and to be able to outline the eyes is a nice, nice touch. Again, you've really got some nice additional welcomed color that wasn't really so much present on the Unicorn. Was somewhat referenced here a little bit in Barbatus, but certainly a lot more color happening here. And again, the articulation on the figure is the same as the other two we already looked at. Arms, ball joint, hinges, elbows, hands, waist, legs. You can bring the legs forward, bend at the knee, and again, you've got the articulation in the lower legs. So that's what all the figures look like stock before we start disassembling things. I mean, really, just as the figures go without you starting to take anything apart, they're really nice looking figures. From a sculpt standpoint, at least of the ones that Bandai were able to provide me, I think my favorite is actually the Unicorn. I just like the size. I like the sculpting of it. It doesn't have, of course, as much paint as perhaps Gundam's Burning Gundam, for example, or even Barbatus. But I do really like the sculpting of that one. And I got to say, like, for the sizing of these figures, too, they do pretty decently in the articulation department as well. Now then, if we are going to start disassembling anything, I guess we should really decide on what parts we really want to use. Well, I do really like the torso, for example, for Barbatus. So I think what I'll do is I'll start that with the base section. We're going to go ahead and take the arms off. Again, they just attach by ball joints. I'm going to just yank off one of them, and I'm going to put that to the side and do the exact same thing on the other side too. It is clever in the sense that they did make this as something that's customizable. Again, you've got now the torso piece. We can go ahead now and take the head off. Carefully, of course. Still, the fact that they did use the softer plastic doesn't mean you shouldn't be still careful. And I guess we can decide from there what legs we really want to use. Well, I kind of do like the lower legs, but I don't think you can actually detach the legs and have them separate. You may be able to remove, of course, the feet. So maybe what I might do is take the feet off. Take the feet off of Barbatus. We're going to keep those. Full disclosure, by the way, as I'm doing this is the first time I've actually disassembled this figure, or any one of these figures really for that matter. So I don't know how successful these will actually be, at least of a build standpoint. But anyways, we're going to detach. I did leave behind the ball joint, so I'm going to just see if I can take that off. Maybe what I can do is see I can yank that off, take that off. And I think I want to use these feet for another one of the Gundams. And again, I just figure out which parts I want to use from the other two Gundams to build my very own. I ended up succeeding in getting the ball peg back in there. I'm going to keep the feet for this one. I did also want to show you too that with the legs, you can actually take the skirting off of these too. If you did want to use, say, this skirting with the robot or the Gundam that we're about to build. So I think we're done pretty much with Barbatus for the time being. What we have to work with from at least that Gundam is the feet. And again, you've got yourself the torso. We've got the torso right there. Let's move our attention now over. And I'm still not sure what I'm going to use for arms. But what I do know, though, is I think I'm going to use the lower legs at least of Unicorn. I'm going to take the shield and take the blaster off. We don't need those for at least the time being. And I do think I want to use the lower legs here. So what I'm going to do is detach. Now again, everything is attached by ball joints, so it should make things fairly easy to remove. Again, you just yank that off. And as already looked at, the skirting does come off too. So let's just try this, shall we? I'm going to take the skirting that came included with Barbatus, just see if that actually fits over top. I think it does. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. Let's just actually compare the two. Oh, okay, so one thing that's going to be a problem here is I can't fully commit to the idea of changing out the skirting. Because obviously, as you can see, the open area of Unicorn fits just really around the outer diameter, I suppose, of the waist. With Barbatus, even though it's technically of the same size, it doesn't have a proper opening here where I can actually put the ball joint in. So that's a bit disappointing. So what we'll do is we'll put back the legs. I'm going to see if I can go ahead and remove, though, the feet. Again, we're just going to yank this off. Oh, I just lost the skirting. I'm going to have to go pick that up. Go ahead and yank the leg off of that one. And let's take then the feet. And you know what? That's not going to fit either, because I just realized now, look how much these stick up. There's no way that's going to be able to fit. So what I think I might have to do is just commit to the idea of just using like the lower half and just rely more on the upper torso being the thing that I can really customize. So like right now, I've got this part here. And then because I can't use this skirting from Barbatus, I'm going to have to revert back to the one I just dropped over there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the skirting on. Then I'm going to put this top torso on from Barbatus. And then from there, we're going to have to decide which head and which arms we're going to use. And again, this is the first time we're doing this. I think I've decided I'm going to use the arms here for the Unicorn. I'm going to yank those off. Again, fairly easy with the fact that they are ball joints. I'm going to take those off, and I'm going to attach them now onto Barbatus. I think that's going to make for a nice, very interesting, bulkier upper frame. Again, you've got the gray here from Barbatus. You've got the bigger, broader arms, and you sort of got the bigger, broader legs. A lot of the continuation of Unicorn. But I think what we will, though, do is I'm going to probably take the head. Remove the head here from Burning Gundam. It's going to be a little bit harder to grab, granted, because it's on that smaller ball joint. I wonder if I could actually just pop this off. Actually, just remove it. I just remove that altogether. Although I really like looking at this. Let me just go back and try this. The legs, remember I had mentioned that you can't use the skirting, though, from Unicorn. I wonder if I could use, no, I can't do that either. So it's not really as customizable as that was what they would say. Yeah, even I can't even use it. It's got the opening, sure, but like the back section of Barbatus does have that middle skirting that's not going to fit over top of the legs. So I think at least of the ones that they provided over to me, I'm really only going to have to use either like the lower half, the upper half, and it's just really the arms, the things that I can actually change on this. What I'm also going to do too is, again, I'm going to remove the head. Take the head off here from Burning Gundam, which, there we go, finally got that off. And I'm going to pop that onto the body here of Barbatus. Yeah, I got to say, that's looking nice. And what other things could we actually do here? Well, the joints, I don't think there's a way I'm going to be able to remove the joints because it would involve me having to take these off. So what I could probably do, though, is based on what I've now built here, sort of a combination between Unicorn and Barbatus, I could probably then take the rest of the body here. And we might as well seeing after all that we have disassembled one to build, well, disassembled all three Gundams to build the one. I might as well then take the parts that were left and build myself a secondary Gundam. So like right now, we've got the top torso here. This was a burning Gundam. We've got the top head here that would have been included for Barbatus. And again, I apologize if I've mispronounced Barbatus's name. I kept wondering that the whole time I was talking about it. And you know what? Let's go ahead and grab the legs here. We have to go back to the skirting that came included with Barbatus. That's going to fit over top there. And that's just going to conveniently attach by ball joint. Providing, again, you've got far enough. You really do want to have the skirting also far enough down so the ball joints sticking up enough. Right, so now we've got Barbatus head, lower torso, and sort of dividing in between. We've got the brighter colors there, burning Gundam. And I guess, let's see if we can actually use, can we use the feet? I don't think we can. We're going to try this. Pop those off. Pop those off. We end up getting something we don't like. It's nothing to say that we can't just simply detach what we've got and start replacing things again. Now see, that works fine. Probably the most compatible of the two figures, at least our burning Gundam and the Barbatus Gundam. And based on what we've now built, we've customized at least two of the Gundams. And now we got some extra parts here. So technically, I suppose I could finish off the rest of this, attaching the torso back down. There we go. Taking the arms, snapping those in place. And we'll do the exact same thing on the other side. And then, seeing as we couldn't make use of these feet, we might as well then plug them back into place. These were Barbatus's original feet. Now, which way did I actually have this? I think this plugged in like that. Was that one of them? I think that was one of them. Plugged in like that. Maybe we couldn't use these feet. Oh, right, yeah. Because we ended up using the feet for right there. So, unfortunately, we can't actually complete ourselves a third Gundam simply just by the use of these, what I thought to be cool-looking feet, ends up being rather awkward because I can't actually use them for anything else. But at least for the time being, we did manage to build ourselves. I guess the last thing we really could also do, too. Could we use this shield? I don't think we can even use the shield either. So what we'll do is we'll take then the weapons. We'll slide the weapons at least into the hands. We want to make use of those at least. My takeaway, at least from what we've done over the course of this video, is that while I do like the idea that they are customizable, they're not fully customizable in the sense that you can use everything and anything from any one of the... Actually, you know what? We can use the shield. We're going to snap that back into place because that was part of its initial accessories anyways. Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed in the sense that you can't use anything and everything to make yourself a perfect-looking Gundam. I mean, still, at the end of the day, I'm actually liking the look of this one right here. I do kind of like the combination of Barbatus and Burning Gundam. You just can't fully mix and match them. I guess perhaps being the fact that, again, when we looked at the Barbatus Gundam, it was actually part of the Zaku wave. So maybe those Gundams that were part of that 5-figure, 5-Gundam release, a little bit more customizable in the sense that you can use those different parts. But at least from what we did for the 3 figures that Bandai provided me, I did manage to at least build 2 of the 3 Gundams, customize at least 2 of the 3. I gotta say I like the look of them. I wish I could have actually changed out more of the parts, at least on the lower half of them, but I do like the way that they turned out though. So in the end, the Gundam Infinity series maybe isn't as customizable as I would hope. I deliberately kept all the moving the parts around, taking off the arms, and trying to come up with my own. I did it all deliberately in front of the camera. I wanted to learn this the same way as anyone else that would be opening this up for the first time would have to figure out what parts could work and what parts couldn't. And while I did just assume that all the feet could work, in the end, the one feet I did want to use were the ones that came included with Barbatus, and that sort of led things down the wrong alley where I wasn't able to then use the other parts for the other Gundams. I think I would stick really just to the idea of using the lower half of one of the Gundams, and maybe if you can luck out, you can use one of the feet. Like I succeeded in actually swapping out the feet on one of them, but it did involve now a third Gundam that doesn't have the means to have a feet attached. I'm going to have to probably change things back, at least probably put Barbatus's feet back on his legs and just keep, again, like the lower half still intact. Still, you can change the arms. That's good. You can change the torso. That's good also as well. And you can also move the heads around. So there is some sense of customization, but just not to the level I was hoping, though. Even like the backpacks, I hoped could have been something that I could have detached from one Gundam and moved to the other. But in the end, both Unicorn and Barbatus had permanently attached backpacks, so you couldn't even remove those either. The only backpack that you could actually take off was the Burning Gundam, but then you couldn't really use it for anything else either. Like I said, I'm happy with the fact that Bandai did give you the means to be able to customize the Gundam. I just wish that they were more customizable. You can kind of chalk it up more to the fault of the design of the Gundams, that some parts work a little bit better than others. What do you guys think of this line, though? Let me know down below in the comments section. And once again, a big thank you to the folks over at Bandai that did provide the sample of the Gundam Barbatus, the Unicorn Gundam, and the Burning Gundam, all part of the new Gundam Infinity series. If you guys are new here, and first of all, you enjoyed this video, why not hit it with a like? If you guys are loving the content that you guys are seeing here and certainly want to stay on board for more, make sure both of you hitting the subscribe button down below, and you're also turning on the bell notification. Keep your peepers peeled as well, because while we have wrapped up the review for a Gundam figure, there may be more Bandai reviews coming your way in the not-so-distant future. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.